Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, back for another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. And as always, to do this show, I need the gentleman of mixed martial arts, the gentleman, Josh Hill. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, kind of basking in the little bit of spring that's going on now, but
Yeah.
that's going to change quickly. But yeah, it's been busy week. I know you went and checked out a concert this week with a great band known as the Midnight, and for anyone who doesn't know about them, they need to check out their music.
I was blown away by the amount of people that never heard of them. You know what I mean? I guess like they're pretty more of a niche. Like they're not a huge mainstream band, but yeah, dude, it was awesome. Yeah, they sound exactly like they do on their albums. Put on an awesome show. It was first concert I've been to, and man, I don't even know, probably like 6, 7 years.
Yeah, it's been forever for me since going to a concert. I was supposed to go as well, but something came up, didn't end up making it. But nonetheless, like it's great to see things like that being a thing where concerts and people going out and about are now becoming normal again.
Yeah, right. How it sure is, man. Like it's good to see people doing the things that they love to do instead of
Yeah, exactly. Uh, it's exciting to see, and as well, like with this weekend in the realm of the UFC, Josh, like out in England with a ruckus crowd and an awesome event. Which I mean, these UFC events the past few weeks have been sensational, unbelievable, quality fights up and down the card. And let's just jump into this UFC show that took place on Saturday afternoon, which because they're in England with Tom Aspinall in the main event against Alexander Volkov. Tom Aspinall coming to this show, maybe the hardcores really knew about him. Not a lot of people, even in that heavyweight division, knew about him. But after that performance, Josh, I think a lot of people know who Tom Aspinall is.
Yeah, man. I didn't get to watch any of the fights because they're at the same time as I'm training during the day on Saturdays, so I get to watch all like the highlights after. But yeah, man. Anybody that beats Volkov in the first round, it was right. Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, first. Yep.
Um, yeah, that's pretty impressive, man. That guy's he's a killer, one of the best, and yeah, that was the biggest test to date for sure, and he passed with flying colors. So yeah, he's definitely a top guy to look out for.
Tom Aspinall now, 4 out of his 5 wins in the UFC have come within the first round, and his other win was a second, like early second round finish against Andrei Arlovsky. So yeah, Tom Aspinall makes a statement, proves why we should focus him on the radar. And I thought it made a solid call out saying he wants to fight Tai Tuivasa next, with Tuivasa now up in the top 3 heavyweights in the UFC and Aspinall gunning for that spot. Why not? I think that's a good matchup to make. Plus, as well, there is this weekend's card with heavyweights in the main event as well.
Yeah, Blades and who's the other one?
Dawkins,
Yes,
Kyle,
that's it. Yeah,
Chris Dawkins.
Chris Dawkins. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. Who else would he fight? Really? That's up to the top. With or you could ask like a Gone, I guess. But yeah, Tai Tuivasa is a huge call out. He's probably the most popular heavyweight right now, other than Nagano, really. When with just being Derek Lewis, I think that's the right guy to go after.
Yeah, Tom Aspinall right now ranked 11th, and I believe those rankings are still going to be adjusted here. And as you mentioned, like Cyril Gone, maybe you fight someone like him, but I feel like they're waiting to see what happens. We know Ngannou's had the surgery. He's going to be out 9 months, so pretty much all of 2022 from his knee surgery. So you probably maybe get an interim title once again, but this one probably is a little bit more realistic and a proper reason why they've had it, as opposed to the one that was created out of thin air. And when you look at the division, like Tuivasa makes sense. I know Tuivasa wants to fight Stipe Miocic. That's kind of just in limbo. And then Curtis Blades, who fights this weekend. So you could also maybe make the winner of whoever wins between Dawkins and Blades fight Aspinall, as they're trying the ascendance of Tom Aspinall. And I think maybe that's maybe the more logical step. You don't want to kind of rush these guys, even though Aspinall does look ready to take that, top step to be one of the 1 or 2 heavyweights in the UFC.
Yeah, I could see him facing the winner of those two, like you said. yeah, I don't know. I keep forgetting about Stipe, man, but he's
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 still there.
still there. Just hasn't fought in so long, right? It's been a long time, so I don't know what's going on. And then with John Jones too, I don't know what's going on with that. So there's, I guess that once that's sorted, if Jones is fighting, when, and if he heard maybe he's fighting Stipe, there's a possibility. I don't know. So see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. This division is going to be very interesting, especially with the champion having not only surgery to be out, but still kind of that contract issue going on with him and the UFC. So that division's one to really keep your eye on. We don't know when Gon's coming back and everyone else kind of jockeying for position in the heavyweight division. But, the co-main event as well, Josh. Arnold Allen took on Dan Hooker. As we're doing the show last week, we'd heard reports that, Hooker needed to cut 16 pounds to still make the weight. He ended up making the weight, so kudos to him. But maybe that weight cut was a little too much because Arnold Allen showed why, the hype around him's been solid as he blitzed Hooker early. Hooker survived the first flurry and looked like he was going to maybe make a comeback, but Allen was able to put Hooker away in the first round and, set himself up for him in the mix as a top featherweight in the UFC.
Yeah, man, that guy's silently kind of just put together a huge run and probably one of the best guys that's really nobody's talking about. And that's a huge win for him, probably his biggest name with Hooker coming down to featherweight. And I think that sets him up for a top guy, somebody like a Dan Ige or Emmett or somebody like that that's in the top. Or Mitchell maybe.
Well, Allen called out Calvin Kattar after the performance, and Kattar's management seems like they're down for June or July, I believe. So that would be one heck of a fight. I mean, Kattar's coming off that great win against Giga Chikadze back in January. Why not? I mean, your division is going to be shined. That division is going to be shined in a couple weeks' time here with UFC 273 from Jacksonville at the beginning of April. And you need contenders in a division that's starting to heat up again. Obviously, Ortega's always still a player in that division. Max Holloway as well probably gets a title shot after this fight between Volkanovski and Korean Zombie, as it was originally Max Holloway's title shot to begin with, but before he got injured. So you're trying to build up those next line guys, and I'm down to see Kattar and Arnold Allen. And I also liked on this card that people called out other fighters, but they made a lot of sense. Let's just hook it up. That makes tons of sense to see, Allen fight someone like Calvin Kattar, where you're not just back a couple years ago, it was like Conor McGregor. It's like, you have no chance at the sweepstakes of that.
Yeah, well, everybody just wanted the big, the big show, the big name, the big payday. I mean, well, it wouldn't be big payday, I guess, unless you're getting pay-per-view buys or something like that. But it's they're educational call-outs. They're call-outs to tough matchups, but they will advance your career and get you closer to a title shot, potentially earn you more dough.
Well, Dan Hooker, who came out on the losing end of this, he wanted to try out 145. Obviously, things didn't go his way. He made the weight, but Dana White even said he can do whatever he wants because of how dedicated and a good professional employee he's been for the UFC. But do you want to see Dan Hooker back at 145, or are you like me kind of thinking stick to 155? Because I think the route to success for him in the UFC is at 155 pounds.
I mean, he made the weight. Only him and his team know how hard it was, and if it did take him, if it did take an effect on him, being able to take shots and absorb damage and continue to fight, or he just ran into a killer, and it was just a tough night because that could also happen. So, I don't know. If he made the weight and it was all good, maybe give him one more chance down there, see how he does, see how he feels, and then if it's not working, then obviously you got to go back up.
I know his coaches weren't super thrilled when he threw this idea of making 145, but that's now the second time in a matter of 6 months he's made 145 with the test cut he did at the UFC PI and then for this fight this past weekend. But I don't know. It's like maybe that weight cut depleted him a little too much. I don't know, because we know Dan Hooker can take a good shot, but you also do wonder if those wars, especially that Poirier fight, have finally caught up to him.
Yeah, maybe, or the combination of the two, of cutting too much weight and then all those wars. But I don't know. Only him and his team know really what's kind of best suited for him. You can make the weight all day, but are you going to be able to perform at your optimal level? That's the big question. So, yeah, we'll see that. I mean, so far, no, it hasn't worked out for him. But again, he fought a top-notch guy, and so we'll see if they give him one more chance at 45, and see how he performs it, or if he goes back up. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, for Dana White to say the door's open for you to do whatever you want, I think that's a big blessing for the talent and the professional that Dan Hooker has been. At least for sure the past 2 years with the uncertainty with things going on with COVID and now him making that weight. So that is a blessing for wherever you want to go, whenever you want to come back for Dan Hooker. But and as we talked about, Arnold Allen now probably going to be a top 5 145 pounder in the UFC now. One of the feature fights on this card, Josh, was all about Paddy Pimblett. I don't know if you've seen any Paddy Pimblett coming up through his time in Cage Warriors. This is now his second fight in the UFC, but it was an electric entrance, an electric performance. Really felt like early Conor McGregor back when he was fighting in Europe and more particularly in Ireland. But this guy has superstar potential. And I know a lot of people are like, he's fighting, someone like a Rodrigo Vargas, who's now 1-3 in the UFC. But I kind of like that the UFC is taking the slow build of someone, not just rushing people into major fights and then, ruining their confidence or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that's fine to do that. They're kind of doing that the O'Malley style way. You know what I mean? And I get that as a promotion, you want to build up your stars and really. Because a loss sets it back, right? It kind of puts a little water on your fire. So you got to build it up the best you can. So I understand them doing that, and they got a big star, another, like you said, another potential McGregor. I don't know if that to that level, or we'll see. Really, I don't know if the skill set is there either. I mean, the guy's good, but is he at that level? We'll see. But yeah, man, that's cool. All I see when he fights is Owen Hart, man.
He really does look like 1993 Owen Hart. And you know what? If you're going to look like Owen Hart and perform at that level, good on you. And he can talk the talk. He's blasting off. He brings high energy, much like Owen Hart's tag team with Coco Beware each and every time he steps in an octagon or a cage whenever he fights. And I think the UFC, they're strict. They're hitting a gold mine in someone like Paddy Pimblett. They're not rushing him. He fights kind of this exciting style where maybe not be the most technically sound, but there's always that rush of, oh my God, he's going to lose this fight. And then he just, survives, takes a shot, either finishes the fight on the feet or gets a submission. Mm-hmm. So it's like a roller coaster watching Paddy Pimblett. And he's someone who's exciting and must watch. And UFC always needs people like that, as, a crop like Conor's time is coming towards an end, you kind of feel.
Yeah. You always got to try to build the next star, even when that other star is still there. Just because once one goes, you don't want to be left with nothing, right? So you're always kind of lining up your shots, playing a couple moves ahead, and I think they got potential there. We'll see what happens, and if they keep feeding him the right fights, and I'd like to see how he does against someone that's a little bit higher up, more skill set. But I see what they're doing to build him up. It's fine.
I'm all about building him up. I know he got into an altercation with Ilya Topuria pre-fight at the hotel. Yeah. Topuria had a big win on this card, wants to fight him. And I don't see the UFC just rushing to make that fight because it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, Topuria is a natural 145 pounder and kind of felt the power of these lightweights, and, good on him and his skill set, able to get a win. But I think we're going to continue the slow build, the slow train of Paddy Pimblett, who, 2 to 3 years could be a megastar getting into those big fights. But I just don't think that's what the UFC's goal is. The UFC's goals right now is to get Paddy Pimblett on cards, bring some eyeballs in on them, especially these fight nights, and just watch his progression grow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I look forward to seeing him fight a top guy. But yeah, until then, I think that's exactly what they're going to do.
Molly McCann had Lee KO of the year on this card, where
Yeah,
she broke out of that clinch position and just hit an unbelievable spinning back elbow that absolutely floored Luina Carolina to get the victory, and the place exploded. She ran in the crowd, grabbed the title belt, celebrated in the cage. It was a great moment. I don't know where we go for Molly McCann. Molly McCann just seems like a fighter you want on these cards, can always bring a good fight. I don't know if she'll fight for a title at some point in the UFC, but it was an unbelievable moment for the British flyweight.
yeah, that was nice timing. You could see her setting it up to when they were clenched up, and she just broke away, got that space, and stepped out to her right, and just boom, right down the nice, beautiful spinning and back elbow right to the jaw. And yeah, that was nasty, man. Very nice, a nice knockout.
She's worked on it, drilled on it in practice, and it just came to fruition there where, McCann almost got Carolina out of there in the first round with like two sequences where she blitzed and put the pressure on Carolina, but couldn't find a way to get inside because of the height that Carolina has. And then you get in that clinch and just break off beautiful spinning back elbow. There's already been some great KOs this year, but that one to me, a clear-cut KO of the year. Ilya Topuria, as we talked about, had that insane knockout on Jai Herbert, where Herbert put the pressure on, put the pain on Topuria in the first round, but Topuria just shows why he's one of these top guys in the UFC. It withstood the storm and then brought a storm of his own right against the Brit.
Yeah, that was nasty. Right hand, right in the. Is he's the same guy that knocked out Hall, right?
Ryan Hall, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I knew I watched him fight before in that one. Yeah. Yeah, man. That guy's good for sure. Big potential, I think, at 45, and hits hard. Good striking. Yeah, that was clean.
He's now 12-0 as a pro. And, the one thing that's unfortunate is he was supposed to fight Charles Jourdain back in January, and that fight would just be absolutely insane. So hopefully, I know Jourdain's got a fight locked up for down the road, but hopefully they can find a way to make those two meet again. But I know Topuria wants the Paddy Pimblett fight, and I don't think he'll get it. Not at least at this moment, maybe, 6 months, a year from now. But it was a great knockout for a guy we still have to keep our eyes on in Topuria. And it'd be interesting if he goes back down to 145 or stays at 155. He's had some weight issues at 145, but I just want to see him fight wherever he fights, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if it goes up to 55, then maybe it is the fight to make, right? But we'll see. Both divisions are stacked, so either spot you're fighting top guys.
Yeah, this card had tons of highlights on it. A quick anaconda choke from Mr. Finland, Magne Amirkhani. Paul Craig, who took a beating in that first round against Nikita Krylov, and then all of a sudden, like a tarantula playing with something in his web, he just sinks in that triangle choke and forces Krylov to tap out. And, Paul Craig, I thought as well, made a smart call out, wants to fight Anthony Smith for like a fight night main event. That makes a lot of sense, as Paul Craig is a guy that as of late has really turned it on and had the best run of his career, now on a 4-fight win streak, and all of those wins have come by way of submission.
Yeah, man. He's looking good, especially in, like you said, a division that is kind of a little shallow right now. You know what I mean? It's not the deepest, so he can definitely make some ways as fight like a win over a guy like Smith, who's one of the more marquee name guys. He's been around and he's fought for titles. That's a huge win for him, and that could put him right up in contendership if he gets a win over Anthony.
Yeah, I would love to see that if they end up making it. But like Paul Craig, as we said, this guy's really turned it on. Before that performance, remember the nasty arm break against Jamal Hill last year at UFC 263. A guy that, he thought this fight was going to be a stand-up battle, but Paul Craig, maybe one of the best guys with jiu-jitsu at 205 pounds, because you don't want to play with his guard at all. Or if you think you got the fight going with some ground and pound or hammer fists, he'll absorb them and find a way to get a submission.
Yeah, he never wrote, man. Never wrote the fight. And one thing I like about him is he doesn't just play the jits game. A lot of guys are just strictly jits. You can tell, and they get smashed, but he's willing to kind of blend it together, and that's why I think he's getting all these subs too.
And as well, I mean, Jack Shore, a bantamweight, had a win on this card against Timur Valiev.
Yeah.
Muhammad Makayev, a guy we talked about last week, made his UFC debut. And look, the hype is real. Got a 58-second guillotine choke against Cody Durden. I mean, Makayev's a guy that's had like so many amateur fights, had a successful run in Brave Combat Federation. And then, you know, when the UFC signed him, you thought this guy's going to be a real big player at 125 pounds. And so far, so good. And flyweight, which is a division that's really risen since, you know, Henry Cejudo's was champion with those great Figueiredo and Moreno fights. And now you got a young British player here in Makayev who's only 21 years old and only going to be so much better.
He's British?
He is of British descent. His family emigrated there, yes.
Okay. So was he from Russia or somewhere over there before, I imagine?
Yes. He's not originally from Dagestan.
Dagestan, yeah. Right on, man. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But then you got like the Eastern European real like far background, and then they immigrate to in Brits, and then now making a name in the States. So yeah, it's a guy that kind of has the trifecta of geographic areas of popularity. So yeah, it's somebody that you can really use.
And plus, this guy wants to still fight, and he apparently fought this fight with like a broken hand and went in there, showed his toughness, got it done within under a minute. And now I was already calling out for, July to fight Tim Elliott. And that's like a huge step up from Cody Durden for how durable and tough Tim Elliott is. But I love the confidence in this kid.
Yeah. Well, Tim Elliott's a guy that's been around, been there, fought for title, always is in some pretty interesting, fun, fast fights. He's like a little, Tasmanian devil. So yeah, that would be a big win for him.
If they end up making it. But I mean, Makayev's a guy that, when we said the hype was, someone to look out for, and so far the hype's proving to be real. Now 6-0 as a professional, and a guy that was 22-0 as an amateur before turning pro a couple of years ago. So yeah, keep your eyes.
Fight. That's crazy, man.
Fighting those IMF day tournaments and things like that, and where they take amateur a little bit more serious out in the UK and developing your skills as a whole set. And he's one of those products that had all that honed from the amateur side and looked like a pro just as he made his pro debut.
Yeah. I mean, well, that many fights, man, going in the cage, by that time you're just so confident and experienced where it's just you're so calm,
Yeah, and he's definitely experienced and willing to take a big bites out of the apple at 125 pounds. And once again, like a marketable guy for a division that has got fights you can really market, but maybe you don't know a lot of the personalities in the division. Muhammad Makayev, if he continues to get some opportunities this year, you'll know his name for sure, and maybe get a chance for a title by the end or beginning of next year.
Yeah, possible. We'll see. Who's got? Oh, Figueiredo's got the belt right now, right?
Yes, he does.
And are they doing another fight between him and Moreno or no?
We haven't heard anything yet of that. I mean, I know Dana White says that he'd love to see them fight. I'd love to see them fight again, but you kind of want to keep that division moving. You don't just want it to be two guys fighting for the belts where you've got Askar Askarov waiting, Pantoja, Brandon Royval. Kai Kara France has made a nice little run towards getting a title opportunity. So you want to keep that division going. But who knows? Dana likes what he likes, and sometimes they'll make that fight for the sake of that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, Josh, obviously there's a UFC as well this weekend where before they take a 1 week hiatus. And once again, UFC out on the road in Columbus, Ohio, with the main event that we already have touched on, Curtis Blades, Chris Daukaus. A very interesting heavyweight match where, Daukaus, he's looking to get back in the win column after losing to Derek Lewis, and for Curtis Razor Blades, he's looking to get his second win since beating Rosenstruck. But both guys that lost to Derek Lewis last year and are looking at especially for Blades with that division being wide open, really make a statement and take the next step and get himself in that title opportunity that he was at the beginning of last year.
Yeah. I don't know who to pick in this one. I kind of want to go with Blades. I think he's just going to utilize his wrestling. I think that would be the deciding factor. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one to cover. Yeah, I'd probably pick Blades.
Yeah, that's a solid fight to pick and go. I mean, for Dawkins, this is a heavyweight that we thought has potential, has had some big wins already in the UFC, but you know, fighting in the apex in that smaller cage, not a lot of room to run up against Derek Lewis. He'll cut the angle down and put the pressure on, and that's exactly what he did. But I liked what I've seen from Dawkins. It's going to be an interesting fight where Dawkins is a heavyweight that likes to play the jiu-jitsu game as well. So
Yeah.
we shall see where that goes. Where sometimes we've seen Blades get himself in trouble with his wrestling, but I think I lean with you. He's got that big fight experience already, some main events on these fight night cards, and his wrestling may be just a little bit too good for what Chris Dawkins can expect right now. But it's an interesting fight in a heavyweight division that, as you said, is going to be one to keep our eyes on this year.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I'm not really like, pumped about it, but whatever. I'd watch it. One of those.
Well, I mean, I think we're excited to see the UFC, putting on heavyweight fights, making that division feel like something. That, for me, what's exciting about this card is it's once again outside of the apex with a live crowd and feeling back up to normal. And it's unfortunate that after they're going to take this week break, there's a pay-per-view in Jacksonville, Florida, and then like the next 3 shows in April are all back at the apex. So I think after England kind of proved like we really just take these shows on the road again. And so it'll be nice to see Columbus, the first fight night out on the road since the pandemic in the United States. So that's going to be a big win. And Columbus has always been a good spot for the UFC.
Yeah, and it's did the Arnold Classic already happen? I wonder.
It happened at the beginning of the month, yeah.
I knew it was March. I just thought maybe they kind of like try and filter that in with that, you know what I mean, and take some fans. But yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, man, it's good to see them going places and actually having live crowds again, because Apex is nice for what it is, but you want to go on the road and have different shows and crowds and just bring it back.
Yeah, especially with now like the world kind of opening up a bit, Josh, and you can kind of go out, have events. And I think the UFC in some capacity does want to go out there. I mean, the Apex has its bonus for them as, they save on cost of travel and, can charge super expensive prices for the tickets to go there. But you want to make it kind of back out and touring and get your product out there and get that live atmosphere and hit markets you haven't been as well, where that their fan bases are just going to come running back who haven't been able to see live MMA of that stature in 2 years.
Yeah, man. A lot of places haven't had anything, so yeah, I think it's a no-brainer.
It should be interesting, and as we said, Columbus, obviously a lot of history with the UFC. Of course, probably the most memorable fight there was Randy Couture and Tim Sylvia, where Randy Couture came in, won the heavyweight title, where no one gave him any hope in that fight, but ended up winning there. And yeah, as you mentioned, the Arnold Classic, I remember WEC always putting shows at the beginning of March and kind of pairing it up there. So those were fun stuff back in the day for MMA. But back to this card here, Josh. I mean, Joanna Wood, the former Joanna Calderwood, Alexa Grasso, once again, a fight where people are trying to jockey for position at 125 pounds. As the Shevchenko is going to defend the belt shortly. And, you need more contenders. And for Wood as well, this feels like a must-win fight for her.
Yeah. That division is, I mean, Shevchenko pretty much cleared it out. So, yeah, they're really desperate for new names, new faces, new challengers. Did Calderwood fight, or did she fight for a title? No, she didn't, right? She was going to, and then she lost.
She had the title shot, and then she fought Jennifer Maia and lost that fight, and then Maia ended up getting the title shot.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, this would be a big. It's like you said, a big fight for her. So yeah, she really needs a W. I don't know a whole lot about that Grasso. I remember watching her fight. I just can't really think of anything right now. But yeah, she needs to win, right?
She's on a 2-fight win streak with wins over Jian Kim and Macy Barber, where Joanna Wood, the former Joanna Calderwood, 2 fights that she's lost in a row, a split decision loss to Lauren Murphy, and then she was submitted by Talia Santos back in November. So yeah, for Wood, this is kind of a must-win fight for her. And, that always, when your back's up against the wall, sometimes that gives you the best performance or you crumble in the pressure. And I don't think Wood's one of those people to crumble under the pressure. I think we'll see the best performance of her.
Yeah. And if this was a different division, I would say it would probably be a must win, but you've seen a lot of like the girls in that division go like lose 3-4 in a row and continue to get opportunities. So I think obviously she wants to win, but I think even with the loss, she'd still get another opportunity.
As we were talking about the flyweight division, Josh, some big players in that flyweight division will have a fight on this card in Askar Askarov, Kai Kara France, where Kai Kara France probably with the win puts himself in that bubble of if they don't give Moreno a fourth fight, if he wins, he probably gets a title shot. And Askar Askarov, a guy that you feel as well probably gets himself a title shot as well, because these are two of the top flyweights in the world that aren't people that have just fought for the title for the past 3 times.
Yeah, I think winner kind of puts himself right there for a number 1 contender. Askar, he's good. He's well rounded, good wrestling, good grappling, and Kai is just had the biggest win, beating Cody in the first round knockout. So yeah, I think whoever wins here kind of sets himself up as the next contender.
Yeah, and Kai Kara France really feeling super confident and, trying to sell himself to get these opportunities. I'm excited to see this fight. It's been a while since we've seen Askar Askarov compete since last March. So it's been about a year when he had that, dominant win against Joseph Benavidez. But like he's fought the best of the best in the UFC. He's got a draw against Brandon Moreno, who's obviously been a former champion, wins over Tim Elliott, Pantoja, and then a Benavidez. So he's fought the best of the best in the UFC, former ACB flyweight champion. And Kai Kara France is someone as well who's really picked his stock up as well in the UFC, putting on exciting fights. As you mentioned, Josh, the Cody Garbrandt victory. The Brandon Royval fight was crazy, one of my favorite fights from 2020. He didn't win that fight, but a very memorable performance. So this one should be if Kai can find a way to stuff the takedown and keep it on the feet, he should have success, but that's easier said than done.
Yeah. If I had to pick, I'd go with Askar, but it's still a good fight.
I think a fight that should be really exciting, Matt Brown, Brian Barberino, like Matt Brown, a native of Ohio, fighting in his home state for the first time since 2013 when he beat Eric Silva in his hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio. And, Brian Barberino, a very tough, durable guy, looking to get back on a win streak here, and is coming off a win over Darian Weeks back in December. So, and Matt Brown always brings an exciting fight, whoever he's fighting.
Yeah, man, both guys are nails. That's an exciting fight. We'll see if he's getting older too. He's been in a lot of wars, but that guy's a warrior, man, and always brings it. And that Barberino guy takes a licking and keeps going. That's a fun fight.
Neil Magne is also on this card, a guy that's willing to want to fight Khamzat Chimaev. He never got that opportunity. So a big performance here against Max Griffin would really bode well for him. But Griffin right now is on the best run of his UFC career, 3-fight win streak, including his last win with the biggest name he got, Carlos Condit.
Right. Yeah. Max has been looking good, man. I'm excited for that one. I'm cheering for Max. Trains that alpha male all the time. So, but he's no easy fight, man. That guy's he's a top tier guy. So that's I think if Max can keep it on the feet, I think he's got a much better chance of victory. But Neil's a tricky dude and very good jiu-jitsu. So we'll see.
Is Neil Magne like the most underrated welterweight in the history of the UFC? Like, this guy has been in the UFC since 2013. He's, fought some of the best guys in the UFC, nearly got himself in title contention a couple years ago, but no one gives him the credit for it. I know maybe his style is not the most entertaining, but to be in the UFC for almost 10 years, have great performances, and, have like a takedown record or that something of that stature that passes GSP in that division. That's a statement.
Yeah, man, he's good. He's just one of those guys that he's a tough fight for anybody. Like you said, he's not the flashiest, so he's not as memorable as much, even though he has some really killer wins. And he's a guy that will win 1, 2, 3, lose 1, win 1, lose 2, win 3, win, and he just kind of never goes on those crazy runs and beats the biggest names, but he's still like he's not an easy out for anybody in the world. And he's a tough fight, so he's one of those guys.
Plus, he trains at Elevation with Elevation Fight Team out there in Colorado. So, his cardio is always up to snuff, can always take the fight into deep waters. And he's the one that usually pops his head up and, doesn't have to gas for air and drags his opponents down for him. So, for Magne, I've always liked the guy, a professional in each and every aspect. And hopefully he finds a way to maybe get that Khamzat Chimaev fight, even though that's looking like a thing of the past with Chimaev setting to fight Burns shortly. And then it seems like Chimaev, a guy, we're talking about Paddy Pimblett on the slow track. Chimaev's been on the fast track to superstardom in the UFC, and he's looking like he's almost at that end goal.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. And guys got a lot of hype, so I want to see more from it. We'll see.
Well, Josh, that's going to be a fun card for Saturday. And then, it's nice to get a little break as well, the 1 week off as we gear up for UFC 273 with Volkanovski and Korean Zombie in the main event of that card. But, as well, like just seeing all the news come out, it looks like you finally got a fight, Josh.
I do. Bellator hasn't announced it yet, so I was told not to announce it yet, but it's out there. So MMA Junkie announced it, MMA Empire, and I seen announced it. But yeah, I'll be fighting April 22nd in Hawaii.
Yeah,
man. Finally not Connecticut.
Yeah, finally not Connecticut.
Right?
Outgrown Connecticut.
Yeah. So I'm fighting. It's pretty crazy what they're doing. It's cool. They got 2 nights back to back, the 22nd, 23rd. And I'm going to fight the Friday night. And I guess I'm on the card. I'm still an alternate. So I'm assuming that's why they put me that night. And we'll see what happens. There's still things could change and somebody gets hurt or whatever. And then my fight's off and I'm filling in for whatever. So, but as of right now, I'm fighting Enrique Barzola. Good, tough scrap for sure. He's only had 1 fight in Bellator. He beat Darren Caldwell, so it's a big win, and he's had a bunch of it in the UFC. He's a tough guy to get out of there. Tends to usually go the distance, whether he wins or loses usually. Yeah, it's a tough scrap, man. But I'm pumped. I can't wait to get out there.
I bet you can't wait to get out there, not only for the stature of this fight as your career rises in the promotion, as you said, Enrique Barzola, a tough guy. And if you remember that Caldwell fight, Caldwell looked good early, but Barzola was able to, put the pressure on, hurt Caldwell, and then end up, finishing him in the 3rd round where just some good ground and pound. Caldwell wasn't defending himself. And, now he meets you. Yeah, he gassed out Caldwell. Now he meets you who, you're coming off the biggest win, the most exciting win of your career in Bellator, Josh.
Yeah. So it's, I asked for somebody in the top 10 again, obviously, but with the tournament happening, it's like all, there's 8 guys right there that are locked up. So, and Lugo just fought, and then I asked for Casbell, and then lined him up with Gaston. So yeah, there was really nobody left in the top 10 for me. And this is what they came up with. And, for me, I'll fight whoever, but yeah, it's a good one, man. I'm pumped.
It is an exciting fight, and as well. Plus, I guess you get to stay on your toes as well if something happens with someone that's in the Grand Prix, if they have a weight issue or travel issue, whatever issue may be for those people that are going to be in the Grand Prix. You fill the spot, so that kind of puts you a little bit on edge as you prepare for Barzola. But then if you get thrown in last minute, you're in the tournament that you've wanted to be in.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. Like if somebody misses weight, I don't know if that means they're not fighting. Like I'm not sure about that. If that's a possibility, or if it's just like a regular card and they get fined. I don't know. But whatever. It doesn't really matter. In my mind, I'm fighting the 22nd. I'm fighting Barzola. And that's it. And if anything changes, then I deal with it then. But for right now, that's all I'm focusing on.
And you have to obviously be excited, as we said, no longer fighting in Connecticut, you're fighting in Hawaii as Bellator returns to Hawaii for the first time in 2 years, 3 years almost. And I mean, that's a market, as we've talked about last week, they've kind of cornered as their own unique. And you will be on that card that sets the tone of that as Bellator returns to the 50th state.
Yeah, man, that's cool. I've never been to Hawaii. I always wanted to go, obviously, like I think everybody. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to get out there and check it out and fight there. Yeah, I'm excited, man. It's I mean, I do this sport for one because I love it, two for money, and three because you get to go to cool places and meet cool people, and this is one of those opportunities where you get to do it.
And how exciting is it for you? Because I remember when I first met you, it was like no one wanted to fight you. You were basically begging people to come fight you, fighting, in Quebec, Alberta. And then you signed with Bellator, and now finally, things, through a pandemic and all, you finally got, that consistency that you wanted. And your career's finally, taking off to a point where, you're a win or an opportunity away from being in a tournament. And, another big win for you, Josh, that'd be what? 4 in a row or 4 in the promotion for you?
Yeah.
4 in the promotion for you. Like, you're kind of making those dreams really come true for you right now.
Yeah, man. I'm just doing it. You know what I mean? Just doing it. And yeah, the problem in when I was fighting in Canada and those smaller shows, it was just, I couldn't get fights, like you said. And guys are a lot more protective, right? But once you hit a big organization, then you can't just pick and choose your fights. You're fighting top tier guys every fight, really. So that's just kind of how it played out. And I never picked any of my fights yet, to be honest. My manager texts me the name, and I say, "Sweet, cool, all right, yep." And that's just kind of how it's gone. So that's just, we're rolling with it, man, and having fun.
What's training camp going to be like for you, Josh, for this fight?
And it's I've been doing it up in here back at home with all my guys at Agus and Niagara Top Team. But I'm actually heading out tomorrow to California, Team Alpha Male, and 2 reasons. One, I always go out there. It's a great camp. I get prepared physically, mentally, but also it'll cut my time down a little bit. It'll be instead of a 6-hour time difference, it'll only be 3. And also my flight, instead of 10 hours, it'll be 5. So just kind of cuts in half and not as big of a adjustment for me when I'm there.
And the biggest bonus of this travel, you don't have to worry about COVID. It's no more issues of that. You can just go, travel, make the trip, and just focus on the fight. That's got to be a nice weight off your shoulder, even though I know you weren't one of those people that really worried or cared about that. But
yeah,
that's at least one less stress you have.
Yeah, I mean, great. Like I said, I haven't cared about that in a long time. But yeah, it is nice for sure. Just get back to some normalcy. You know what I mean? And ditch all that shit and all that headache that comes with it. And yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't know if it's totally gone yet in Hawaii. I know Hawaii was pretty tight for a while, and they had a lot of bullshit there. So I don't know what it's like, but it's better than it has been. That's for sure.
Well, clearly, as Bellator, you were putting not 1 but 2 shows on that weekend in April, and as well. So you're going to be in California for what, the next 3-4 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously, safe trip when you get out there, Josh, and best of luck, because this is not only a great opportunity for you for not only the opponent but fighting in a venue like Hawaii. A lot of people, that's a dream for them, and you're going to do that as well. That card's just, the Saturday card's filling up with not only the great Grand Prix fights, but a lot of those Hawaiians are fighting on the card.
Yeah.
I saw Yancy Medeiros is now on the card. Kai Kamaka is on the card. So Elimele McFarland's also on the Saturday card. Yeah. So it's, as we said, Bellator's April is going to be some of the biggest and most pivotal events, I think, for the promotion this year, and I'm really geared up for them.
Yeah, man, I'm excited as a fan. Not just a fighter, as a fan, to watch all that and be cool. Like if everything goes how it's going to go, I'm going to fight Friday, and then I'm going to stick around and hopefully watch the show Saturday and go to it. So yeah, I'm excited, man, and I think it's pretty cool. I like Japan. Hawaii was never like I never thought of, I really want to go to fight in Hawaii, but like more I thought about, like, yeah, man, that'd be pretty cool. Like the Rumble and the Rock they did like in the early days, things like that. And Japan was the other one that I always want to do. So I get to check one of those off the bucket list. That's awesome.
And you know what? The way with, as we said, things are opening up. Bellator and that Ryzen co-promotion. Who knows? Maybe you get an opportunity. You know, the year's still early, Josh. So you get a win here. Maybe you go over to Japan and fight some of the tough bantamweights that Ryzen has.
Yeah, that'd be amazing, dude. That'd be the dream.
That would be the dream. Well, hopefully dreams can continue, but obviously focusing on this fight coming up on April the 22nd against Enrique Barzola. So with that, Josh, we'll wind this show down as you prepare to get everything mentally set, to make sure you got everything with you to go travel and head out to California, and safe trip out there to California and as well to Hawaii.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
So for my broadcast partner, the gentleman Josh Hill, I'm Jason Hagholm. Peace out, and we'll see you all next week.